In this video, we have 18 clips to analyze. So let's see what questions we have only on Paranormal, True or False. It is free to subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you. Is this a ghost orb? As we look at this very grainy footage, it appears suddenly an orb flies in front of the camera. Is this a ghost orb? Even with speeding up the footage, it doesn't give us any more definition. Zooming in doesn't help either. It's just this odd shaped item floating or flying in front of the camera. Is it a bug? Or is it a reflection of some object that is getting hit by the wind and the sun and causing it to appear and disappear? I'm not convinced it's paranormal, but the footage is just not defined enough to tell one way or the other, so it's inconclusive at this point. Viewers' discretion advised. We're about to see a naked doll. So as we watch this doll, it starts moving on its own. The arm just keeps rising and then it falls. Is this doll possessed? Is this doll trying to reach out to the living? Is the spirit inside this doll trying to reach out to its body? Or is it a string attached to the hand? Is there a mouse or some other type of critter that is inside of the doll chewing on the arm, and that's what's causing the movement? Has a lever been inserted on the backside of the doll that causes it to move on its own? Is it laying on some type of a hammock and it's moving because maybe the hammock is moving? Because on the left hand side we actually do see the fabric sink in as if somebody's touching the fabric or something is touching the fabric. This is one of those where I could see how it could be faked, but I don't know if it is fake or real. This could be a possessed doll. Is this a shadow person? As this abandoned building is being explored, suddenly we will see a shadow cross in front of a door. Is it an optical illusion? Is it the shadow of the camera person? Is it a shadow of another living person? Or is it a non-living shadow? It seems like there might be a mirror behind the camera operator, and the light is hitting that mirror, and as he moves forward, it catches that mirror and the light in such a way that it creates him as the shadow person? Or is there a light behind him that's silhouetting him on that door? Either way, it appears to be in sync with his movement, so I think it's his shadow. Is this a poltergeist? An object flies off the wall. A chair suddenly slides across the floor, and then a filing cabinet drawer suddenly flies open. Supposedly, this took place in a hospital. Is this a ghost of a recently departed person who's upset that they died? Is this staged? Is it a prank? Is it bored living people just having fun? The camera operator actually gives this one away because they're facing that camera right at the wall instead of down the hallway. So that caused them to follow that poster across the room, which set them up to be at an angle where they're watching the chair. Then they follow the chair across the room till they get to the filing cabinet. So it's actually the camera's predictability of what's going to happen next that actually gives this away as staged. Is this balloon possessed? We will suddenly see a balloon move into the center of the frame, and it will make its way down the escalator. Is this balloon alive? Is this balloon possessed? Is this a simple case of the balloon is slowly deflating and it's following the path of the airflow through this mall? Is it possible these escalators are leading to an outside door and the balloon is just being pushed by a vacuum or pulled by a vacuum? Is this a case of CG and the balloon is not real? Is this just simply an animation effect? Did they simply use a bounce effect just like this? What anomaly was detected? An SLS camera is being used, and suddenly at that post, an anomaly will appear of a stick figure. Did this SLS detect a ghost? The SLS cameras were developed for the gaming industry so that they could capture much more accurately human movement to make the video games more realistic instead of cartoonish. If you ask if these SLS cameras are still being used for gaming development in Google, you'll find every single post is about ghost hunting for these cameras. And the gaming community didn't trust the cameras because they would have what they thought were these type of glitches. But the developers of the cameras say that these are not glitches, and they've actually studied more on these type of kinetic cameras, trying to figure out if they actually are capturing ghosts. But in this case, it's like it could be real or something that the camera actually captured, but it could also be easily edited to make it look like it's there. The left side is mine, the right side is the original. I was not trying to make it exact, but just trying to show you one possibility of how this could be done. Are these doors possessed? As this streamer is recording live, he's talking about the fact that he's having problems with doors in his house closing suddenly, and the force in which the door closes would not be attributed to a vacuum. This apparently happens with more than one door in his house. Is his house haunted? Is the ghost mad because he's making too much noise? Is this a parent ghost that's trying to send him to his room and close the door in anger? Is a string being used? One of the things I noticed with both doors is he has a hook on it with clothes hanging from it. Is that somehow hiding strings or hiding some type of mechanic that allows the door to be closed? So unfortunately, because we can't see the entire door, we don't know if a pet jumped up on the door and closed it. We don't get to see really the handle of the door to see if there's string maybe attached to the knob. I don't know for sure if he's alone or not. I don't know if he's rigged some type of device that he's just hitting a button and that's causing it to close. So this one might be real, but I can also see so many different ways it could be rigged that I'm not convinced it's paranormal. Is this doll possessed? As this teenager is holding this very large doll, the head of the doll suddenly will turn and look at the teenager. Now I'm using the skull to block the teenager and protect them from any predators, but it's not blocking the paranormal activity. We can still clearly see the doll's head turn. So based on the teenager's reaction, I don't think the teenager is involved in any prank here, but still could be the one being pranked. It doesn't appear that the head is very loose, and we can see both of her hands are in front of the doll, not behind it. Someone could be off camera and pulled a string or something and caused the head to move, but I don't know. This seems like it could actually be real. What do you think on this one? Is this toy possessed? As this child is playing with the toy on the table, it will suddenly move, seemingly by itself. Is the child kicking the table and that's what's causing it to move? Have the parents tied strings to it and that's what's causing it to move? If I can't cut the footage in a way that doesn't mess up the paranormal to remove the child, then I'm just going to cover the child up with this picture of a skull. It's just the best way to protect them. I've added the cat eyes so predators know that we're watching them. So back to the clip. I don't know if this toy has wheels on it. The surface does look like it might be slippery, and the child is not old enough to really react to this type of movement. So the lack of reaction by the child is not an indicator of this not being staged or being staged. I just feel like this is a loving grandparent that just moved the toy closer to the child so they wouldn't have to reach as far. What is this night crawler? This video was captured in Yosemite in California. We will suddenly see a white figure on the left-hand side move down this slope, and then a second figure shows up as well. However, in 2007, another video appeared with the same figures, except for Factor Baked Paranormal Files tried to debunk that footage and they were not successful. The original footage that I'll show you in a second here was captured in Fresno, California. This too was captured via security camera, and it just looks like two flapping legs that has almost no body and maybe a head. And this is the footage that the TV show tried to debunk. They did different type of fabric on a line, and they could not replicate the movement. They also debunked it being potentially a CG or video effect. But for whatever reason, this image here doesn't seem like it's the same. I'm just going to call it fabric legs, not fabricated, but looking like it's fabric legs don't look like the fabric is moving and flapping as much as the 2007 Fresno footage does. See how much just flapping of the legs we're seeing? Now, of course, that could be because we're looking at the side view in the Yosemite and more of a front view with the Fresno. Now, part of the problem is on the Fresno footage, we have side lighting and we have a higher perspective. For the Yosemite footage, we have apparently front lighting and a lower perspective. The other thing is the Fresno footage shows a shadow, so there's definitely something there. The Yosemite footage does not. Is that because of the lower view we can't see the shadow? Or is it because the Yosemite footage is CG? And some CG artists, especially back in 2011, would forget to do the shadow. So Fresno is potentially real, whereas Yosemite may be CG. So then the question becomes, if it's not CG and this is real, what is it? No clue. Is this doll watching these people? As the lady starts maneuvering the cups around, suddenly a doll will lean forward and sit up, apparently watching the activity. Is this doll rigged to sit up? Is this doll on some sort of a string or a timer? Is this a retail shop trying to drum up business? Or is this doll possessed by a curious ghost? Unfortunately, I can't see enough of the environment around the doll to know for sure one way or the other. Who or what moved this toy? The toy on the right side of this lady's leg suddenly moves. I thought this one was a little funny because once that toy moves, the person that's in charge of that box right there shoves the box into the toy. So if there's any hoax, I don't think the person holding the box is in on it. We do clearly see that the woman's left hand is under her knee, and we don't see what that hand is touching. Did she simply flick her fingers and move that toy herself? If she did, she managed to do it without moving the fabric on her pants. It's also possible the person with the box would have seen those fingers. Obviously, a string could move it. Or is there a childlike ghost present that wants to play with that toy? Is a poltergeist moving this furniture? We see that the chair is facing the bed, and then the stand in the corner has something on it, but then we see the chair start to move on its own. Initially, we see the chair move towards the bed, but then it suddenly turns 90 degrees. It does not appear that anybody is in the room. Who or what moved that chair? Is the chair on wheels and that's why it's so easy to move it? Then a few seconds later, the IV stand moves towards the chair. Why? Hospitals are known to be haunted. Did somebody recently die in this hospital room? Are they mad because they died? Or are they confused and don't understand if they're dead or not and are trying to get everybody's attention? Or is this just bored staff that are playing a hoax and just staged all of this with string or surgical tape? My rule of thumb is if there's too much activity, it's too good to be true. Is this a ghost in this forest? On the left-hand side, we will see something moving that looks transparent. What is it? Is this a camera glitch? Is this just some type of post-editing trick where they've just copied something in there and are moving it around and tracking its movement? Is it something in nature, such as a small animal? Will zooming in help us see it better, or will it be more obscure? Will speeding it up help us figure out what's going on? It gives this appearance of being more than one person, and the second person, when they turn around, they look like they have a halo around them, like they're a god. But it blends in so much with the background that it's very hard to see what's going on and to make any rhyme or reason of this, other than it looks like some type of a film on top of a film. But it's so faint that you can barely see anything. Is this a ghost? At the top center of our screen, we will suddenly see a figure walk towards us before it disappears again. Is this a ghost? Is it a stalker? Is it a criminal? Or is it just the person walking home? Is this an incredibly small person who is not even 3 feet tall? And is this just a camera glitch where the light sensor is not picking up that person in full and they're actually taller but the camera's not picking that up? Is it one of those stationary camera data modules where it's not picking up all the pixels and not transmitting all the pixels to the camera's computer? I think it's a weak camera or a glitchy camera and a living person. What do you think? Is there a ghost in this ambulance? This man goes into the building and leaves the ambulance door wide open. And then suddenly, the door closes. Did a ghost close that door? Is there someone in the ambulance that we can't see because of the reflections on the windows? Did a ghost reopen that door? Even when we zoom in, is there someone there and the camera's not picking it up? I feel like there's some sort of optical illusion that is keeping us from seeing that there actually is a person right there. And when we're zoomed in like this, it actually does look like there's a person inside there. But the reflections of the glass is just distorting that person so much that it's very difficult to make them out. But I'm going to stick to there's a living person there opening and closing the doors, and the distortion of the windows reflecting the exterior is just messing with us and causing this optical illusion of there's nobody there. Is this a violent poltergeist? As the camera operator points the camera into this room, we see a mattress leaning up against the wall on the left-hand side, and then suddenly it flies up in the air and then comes back down on the floor. He immediately goes into the room and turns on the lights, but he doesn't see anybody. But then the footage cuts just when he opens up that door. Why did the footage cut? If you have a ghost that is this violent, that is capable of lifting a mattress, 5 feet into the air, then you definitely want to get an exorcism, a cleansing, and get out of the way of this ghost because they're too violent. Now, could this be faked? Yes, it could. I would purposely not show the top of the mattress so you would not see my rigging. I would use a rope and a hook and run it through the rafters and the ceiling. Then I would hide inside this room that the guy did not show us what was in there when he opened up the door. And I'd use all of my strength and maybe need a second person to just violently and suddenly grab the rope and yank and pull until we got lift off. And it didn't matter how it fell, we would just let it fall however it was going to fall. I would also make sure there's nothing in the room that could be broken when that mattress takes off. But I truly believe if you have paranormal activity that has the ability to lift something that large and throw it, you're not grabbing your camera, you're grabbing your ass and running. Is this clown possessed? So the owner sets the clown in this chair and fixes his legs and sets him up there in such a way that he's presentable on camera. And in a second here, he'll put the hat on. So he continues to tweak the clothes and get the doll all gussied up and ready for the camera that is sitting and pointing right at it. Now, typically, dolls or clowns don't creep me out, but when they move in such a way that they're looking directly at me, that is creepy. And the only thing on this clown that we will see is just him raising his head and looking directly into the camera. The movement is very subtle, very slow, and you almost don't even notice it until you realize that it's staring right at you. Now, when the guy set the clown in the chair, we didn't see him do any type of rigging with any type of string to pull that head backwards. And gravity being what it is, the head should have fallen forward even more, not raised up. But now, as you can see, it's slowly looking back down at the ground. And looking back down could be gravity, but that initial looking up like this, yeah, that's not gravity. I'm not sure on this one. I think it might be real, but I can also see how it's possible it could have been staged. But it's just subtle enough and creepy enough for me to think this one might be real. Let me know in the comments section what you think on this one. Please let me know in the comments if my analysis nailed it or failed it. The links for other social media platforms for this channel and for Jim is in the description below. Always be safe. It is free to subscribe. Please subscribe. There are many more videos you can watch, and you can click on the attached playlist card to see some of them. Thanks for watching Paranormal, True or False.